Hi everyone, it's Nathara, and today I'm going to be going over the rerun lightchase snow date. So this is one of the ones that I did like double up on. I pulled enough that I could unlock this suit, like fully unlock it. Sorry, my brain is a little off today, so I might be not the best at focusing on my words and getting them out correctly, but I'm gonna try. So anyway, I doubled up. As you can see, I did 386 pulls last time this one was around. This light chase has been around long enough that I don't think I need to go over the items too much, but it is a two-piece and it is lively, and I know a lot of people don't actually have lively stuff. So whenever this first came out, everyone, at least in my circle of friends, was pretty desperate to get their hands on some lively pieces to help boost their score in like endorsement queen and everything. I love this dress, but I actually don't use it too often, and I do like this hair, but again, I don't use it too often, and I don't use the accessories from this outfit as much either, despite liking it. It's a little hard for me to style this dress personally because it's kind of like a lingerie dress, and I just don't put my doll in that sort of thing too often. The B 4-star dress is cute, and it does have like a pretty unique dye to it, and we got some little Mary Janes and a little choker. For our loose 6-star, we have these big bubbles, we have this little hat, and these transparent booties. For our loose 5-star, we do have this dress, letter from butterfly. We have this dress, paper song, these cute little mittens, this small bag, another choker, a handheld, and these kind of like sheer, they kind of remind me of Converse a little bit, like the style, but these are like fashion versions of them. And for our makeup, we get a kind of like a cotton candy, super cutesy contact. We get a little facial paint that's like fish scales, a very dark and lacquer type lipstick, a shiny dew lipstick. I don't recall the name of this one too much off the top of my head, so it means I don't use it too much. The far date contacts and the star pupil contacts. For our ally, we do get Roy's New Year Bloom card, and in our decom, we get the Grand City Clouds dress, and I do really like this dress. I don't think many people do, but I love it. We get the handheld Song of, I don't want to butcher that. And then for our third item, we get the little backpack Dream Rabbit Guardian. For our items, you have the option to get the furniture piece Family Reunion Lantern, the avatar frame Summer Lemon, the avatar Silenese Rose, I probably messed that up too, the chat bubble Goodnight Little Fox, the dynamic frame Graffiti Realm, the photo frame Pink Yarn, the cute effect Dessert Party, and the scene Colorful Century. And I will go over this scene as well, though what you're looking at is pretty much what you get. So this card is one of the few that has a big pic of the unevolved version, and here it is. It is just Roy cutting out a little thing, kind of like snowflake style, you know, whenever you cut the piece of paper to make snowflakes. And here's the evolved version of it. I think it's pretty cute. I like the big swinging lantern, and the lighting on it's really nice. The reward for evolving this card is this Luck Lottery Poetry sweatshirt, which actually does have a item that goes with it, and I will showcase that as well. Alright, and here is the sweater and the pants that go along with them. It's kind of like one of those secret sets, but for your top, you do only get 2 die slots. You get the sweater part and you get the sequin part, and it's the same thing with the pants. You get the cloth part and then the sequin part. So the top is not fully dyeable. There is the sequins on the cuff right here. I'm not sure if that's a glitch or not, but you do have that to contend with. Thankfully it is small, so it's not very noticeable. I do already have my suit dyed completely. I used the brown from this palette, the red from this palette, and then the lighter red right here. Those are the only 3 colors I used throughout the whole suit to make this color combination, which I made to match this scene which you saw on my panel. But let's go ahead and switch back to this and dye this whole thing black. It is not fully dyeable. They actually did come out with an update for the top, the skirt, and the handheld. They added more dye options because it used to be way less dyeable than it is now, but there's still a lot of pieces on it that are not dyeable. Alright, and here's the suit dyed all black. So there's a lot on the hat piece, the hair piece, the earrings, the necklace, the top, the skirt, the bottom of the handheld, and on the skirt right here, and on the shoes, the entire heel and all the crystals. All of that is undyeable. I know it seems like a lot, but trust me, it used to be way worse than this. So this is actually a lot better. Alright, so I'm gonna go out of order this time just a little bit because this outfit has a lot of stuff that goes over. First up is our hat piece, Wispy Snow. So for your first dye slot, you get this little bundle of flowers right here. For the second dye slot, you get the peacock and all the stuff that wraps around. For our third dye slot, you get the pearls inside of these flowers right here, and this one single one down here. For slot 4, you get all of the dangly bits. It does have good movement to it, that's really nice. For our hairpiece, you also get 4 dye slots. It's going to follow a similar pattern to the first. You get the flowers, then the metalwork and the pearls, the center of the flowers right here. And do remember that some of these are undyeable. And for the fourth dye slot, it is this metal part that hangs down and the metal on the back of the hair. For our earrings, you do get 3 dye slots. The first is the flowers, the second is the metalwork that comes down, and the third is the crystals, well, some of the crystals. For our necklace, you get 4 dye slots. The first is the pearls, the second is the metalwork, the third is this smattering of crystals, and the fourth are these pearls right here. For our handheld, which is one of the items they updated, because you used to only have, I think, 5 dye slots on this thing, and the dyeing for it was absolutely atrocious. I'm so happy they updated it. But for the first dye slot, you get the base of the instrument. For the second, you get the tent on the bottom piece down there, and it's also the flowers up here. For the third dye slot, you get the bottom half of the ombre on the tassels. For the fourth dye slot, you get these flowers up here. For the fifth, you get the ombre, the ropes, and the strings and the crystals down here, and even the crystals in the flower up there. So with the ombre together, kind of looks like that. For our sixth dye slot, you get the adjustment knobs underneath, and they do have that epoxy look to them almost. For our seventh dye slot, you get the ombre on these flowers and the beads, and here's that ombre together. Our eighth dye slot is the decoration on the flowers with the ombre. If you pair your dyes right, these can be super pretty. You can make some really cool combinations. Slot 9 is the vines and the center of the other flowers. Slot 10 is the middle part on the tassels and the rivets. Slot 11 is the pearls in the flowers up here. Slot 12 is the glitter that runs throughout the instrument. So it's pretty cool how they decided to do that. As you can see, whenever you twist the instrument, you can see it in the strings. I think it's really pretty. And slot 13 is going to be the sparkles that come off the top. For our coat, we get 13 dye slots. The first is the base of the coat, and there's an ombre with it. Slot 2 is the ombre. So here they are together. It is a beautiful fade. Slot 3 is the filigree work, the little decorations and pearls and the edging. Slot 4 is more of the decorative pieces on the coat and then also on the extra shawl. Slot 5 is the shawl itself. Slot 6 is part of the decorative flowers that was coupled before. Here they are together. So 6 is kind of like how the lilies were in the last one. It is sort of like a tent that you can add on top to create some pretty cool effects. Slot 7 is the big flowers on the coat. Slot 8 is the ombre on those flowers. Here they are together. Again, you can make a really pretty color combination with these two. Slot 9 is the vines that run around the bottom of the coat. Slot 10 is the vines that run on top of the shawl. Slot 11 is the filigree that is on the rim of the base of the coat. Or not filigree, I think it's metal actually. Yeah, that's metal work. Slot 11 is the little shine bright like a diamond stars on the flowers. Again, I don't know why they put those. Maybe because there's a light effect built in, they put it all the way down. But for the flowers, it is going to be 7, 8 and 12 together to get the full like effect of the flowers. And slot 13 is going to be your falling petals. For our bracelet, there's 3 die slots, the metalwork on the first slot, these flowers on the second, and the inner part of those flowers on the third. So together they kind of look like this, but because there is that filter on them and they're a little bit sheer, they are kind of not going to die true. For our ring, the first die slot is the metalwork, the second is the flower, and the third is the inner part of the flower. But also, again, just like the bracelet, it is a little hard to see because of the kind of like built-in lightener on the piece. For our hair, there is 2 die slots, and it is a bunch of looping braids and just draped pieces in general. It's very pretty. You're gonna get the top half, and it does have an ombre that is kind of sharp. As you can see, there's a very distinct line right there. It's not too much of a fade. It is a bit better when you mix a light with a light, so it's not too harsh. But it is definitely, the line is more distinct whenever you have a light and a dark, so just be wary of that. And for our top, we do have 13 die slots. For our first die slot, you get the outer poofy part and the ombre for the piece underneath. Now that used to not die like that. They did update that to where now it is controlled by both, and I'll tell you why in a second when I get to it. For our second die slot, you do get these jewel pieces and the bottom half of the beads. For our third die slot, it is just this, it's the second half of the ombre on the top. And what I was saying earlier with the first die slot used to just solely be the outer poofy part, and the third die slot used to be solely the part that sticks to the skin. And I myself, and most likely others, used to use that as a way to make the inner part skin toned, and the outer part was the only part that was colored, and then you just had the peacocks be black on the middle, so it kind of made it look like a bit more scandalous. Truthfully, it was. So I think they updated the dye system on that as well to stop people from being able to increase, like, I guess, the nudity look of the outfit. Slot 4 is the pearls that go around on the bottom, more of them, I guess. Slot 5 is the like little feelers that come from the inside of the flowers. Slot 6 is the, I called them peacocks earlier, they're phoenixes, I think. Slot 7 is the base of the flowers. Slot 8 is the ombre on the flowers. So here they are together. And before, you used to not be able to dye these like this at all, so I'm very pleased that they updated the dye system on those. Slot 9 is the metalwork that goes around. Again, super happy. There is a bit of clipping on my doll's chest right here, as you can see, and it's not like she has a very big chest. So if your doll is extra boobalicious, she might have more clipping. Slot 10 is the glitter on the flowers, and this is what used to make this top kind of hard to work with, because this was the part that like you could not dye, and it didn't used to be a solid color. It was kind of like an ombre. So here are all 3 dye slots on the flowers. You have your base, your ombre, and then the color of the glitter. That's pretty interesting. Slot 11 is the glitter on the top, also a new addition. Slot 12 is the glitter on the outer part. So I guess you can just like super glitter it up if you really want to. Although I think the glitter on the flowers by itself kind of looks really bad, so maybe not do that one. And slot 13 is the very small amount of debris that comes off. For our skirt, we do have 16 dye slots, which is quite a lot. You get the base of the skirt on the first one. On the second, it is half of the overskirt and some of the beadwork. On the third, it's the ombre. So here they are together. On the fourth, you get the top layer of the bead skirt. On the fifth, it is the center of the flowers. On the sixth, it is the lining that runs down the overskirt. On the seventh, it is the tiny little skirt up here, and then the base of the flowers. On the 8th, it is the ombre on those flowers. On the 9th, it is the kind of like pleated strips underneath the skirt. On the 10th, it is more of those pleated strips, so it is an ombre, and here they are together. It is kind of like, let me see. It fades, but there's a bright piece in the middle that kind of lightens it. It doesn't stay dark, as you can tell. Like the color down here is accurate, and then the color up here is accurate, but in here, this is not the color that the green and the pink would make together. Slot 11 is the decorative work around the skirt. Slot 12 is the metal work up here. Slot 13 is some of the beadwork on the front of the skirt. Slot 14 is the glitter on the bottom of the skirt. Slot 15 is the glitter on the flowers. Again, it is that very, kind of looks like static. I can't tell what slot 16 is dyeing. So it's probably something with one of the ombres, kind of like with the lilies. But no, that doesn't make sense. It could be bugged, in all honesty. If you know what slot 16 is, I would love to know. And for our shoes, we do get 4 dye slots. The first is the base of the shoe. The second is the metalwork that runs around the shoe. The third is the beads. And the fourth is the pearls. Oh my goodness, why does it keep doing that? Why does it make those bright glow spots? That's so weird. Stop that. My goodness. And so that is the entirety of the Dancing Snow set. I do really like this set, and I love that they updated the dyes to make it more usable and increase its versatility, though they still need to come in and update the dyes again, because there's still lots of pieces that could be better used if it were more dyeable. Like this necklace, it's insane that so much of this necklace is undyeable.
Drifting slow in a mellow haze. Night turns cold as it softly sways. Gentle beats weave a lullaby. Close your eyes and let it fly.
And here's the 5-star set, Crystal Tears. So we do have a few undyeable spots, unfortunately. I absolutely love this hair so much. Like, the bangs are just so perfect. It's so cute. But for our first dye slot, it is the top half. The ombre is very, very low, but there is a streak that comes up. And it is right here. It is not the biggest fade. There is a very distinct line and just like a touch of a fade that goes in. And then of course the streak does come up. But from the front, you can't really see it too much. For our dress, you do only get 4 dye slots. The first is going to be the base color of the dress, and then you get the flowers that dot the sheer part of the skirt. Next is the ombre on the sheer part, as well as the lining on the boning of the dress. Our third dye slot is the appliques that go over the entire dress and the bottom half of that ombre. So together they look like this. Our fourth dye slot is the boning and the sequins right here. For our socks, you do only get 3 dye slots. The first is going to be basically the entire sock. The second dye slot is going to be the appliques on the sides. And the third is going to be the few crystals that go up the sides. For our shoes, there is also only 3 dye slots. You're going to get the shoe itself on the first dye slot, the appliques on the second dye slot, and on the third, you're going to get the crystals that are set in the metalwork on the front. For our earrings, you only get 2 dye slots, the metalwork and the flowers. For our necklace, you also only get 2 dye slots, the metalwork and the crystals inside of those flowers. On our bracelet, it's also 2 dye slots. You get the metalwork and, you guessed it, the crystals. And for our ring, it is also only 2. It's the metalwork and the crystals. And that is everything for this 5-star suit. It does feel like I was able to go through that really quickly. This is one of the older 5-star suits though. The newer 5 stars have typically more going on with them, but this one is still pretty cute. But like I said, I do not use this dress too often. It is definitely very lingerie oriented in my opinion. And I just don't use those too much on my doll.
Time dissolves in electric glow. says it all.
And here's our 4-star suit, Bees Floral Voyage. It is riddled with undyeable parts. You have the metalwork and the bees and the flowers on the necklace, this bit of metal on the dress, the bees on the dress, the oil slick pearls on the dress and on the cuff, the bee and the Vana symbol down at the bottom, all of the white on the socks, and these yellow and black oil slick pearls. And on the shoes you also have the bees and the crystals. It is a cute suit, but there is some pretty bad restrictions, especially with the socks. I think my main complaint is that the white on these socks is completely undyeable. But let's go ahead and look at it. So for our dress, you do get 4 dye slots. The first is this part of the dress, and there is like a film over this. So if you pick a darker color, well, I like how I picked that one and it doesn't show it. But if like on the reds, it definitely shows it. There's like an orange glitter effect almost. And on this one, it looks purple. So you can play around with that. A few of the colors do offer a sheen that adds a bit of oomph to it. It's very shiny. For our second dye slot, it is the poofy sleeves. The third dye slot is the honeycomb pattern and the miscellaneous like jewels on the dress. And our fourth dye slot is the opposing ones that were left over. For our socks, you do only get 3 dye slots. The first is the lace on the top. The second is the tint that goes between the netting and the filigree part. The third is the bows and a few of the pearls. For our shoes, there's 3 dye slots. The bulk of the shoe and a few crystals on the back chunk. The second is the heel and the laces. The third is the honeycomb pattern. For our earrings, we do get 3 dye slots. The first is the metalwork, the second is the crystal, and the third is the little center gem. For our necklace, we also get 3 dye slots. The first is the bottom half of the collar. The second is the little pearls right here, and the third is the crystals right here. So this top collar right here with the bee on it is not actually part of the necklace. That is part of the dress. So I take back what I said earlier. The necklace is fully dyeable. It's the only piece on the whole suit that is fully dyeable, but it is. And here's our first loose 6-star item, Bubble Dream. It is just a bunch of popping bubbles. The dye options are not the super best. Let me actually change the scene to a black scene so it is easier to see these bubbles. So even though you pick a color, like right now they're white, you can still see there's different colors cycling in throughout. And if I dye it blue, it does tint it, but even so, some of the bubbles are still they're just not the exact color you want. So this one's a little bit harder to work with. The red, you do get straight red bubbles, but you also get the random color bubbles mixed in throughout. So I can't say this is fully dyeable. It's more of semi-dyeable with some sprinkles inside. And here is our loose 6-star Dawn Snow. It is a thin upon thins. It only has 1 dye slot, and for a 6-star item, I find that abhorrent. It is terrible, it is awful, and this is it. This is all you can dye. You put basically an overlay over the hat. I do not like this hat at all. I'm super upset with it, and it sucks because I do actually like this hat. I'm just kidding, I do like it, but like, it sucks that the dye sucks. And you can't get it to be like whenever you dye it a certain color, it doesn't match that color whenever you pair it with something else. I just wish the dye options were better. It has so much potential. Oh my goodness. And here are our shoes, paraselene space. I probably butchered that word, I'm not too sure, but they're not fully dyeable. The first slot is the sheer, like, what is this plastic stuff called? Not PVC. I don't know. It's the plastic part of the boot. And then the second dye slot is your heel and then your zipper. And here is our first loose 5-star item, letter from butterfly. It is not fully dyeable. The first dye slot is the edging and a bit of the decorative lace. Our second dye slot is the kind of like over part and then the lower frills. And our third dye slot is the under part of the lingerie. I also don't use this too much for the same reason that I don't use the other dress. And here's the dress paper song. It is not fully dyeable. You do have these crystal straps right here, and then there's like a film over the buttons that keep them from dyeing pure. So your first is going to be the leather on the dress, and your second is going to be the tint under the buttons. Our next item is the rabbit snowfall gloves. They are fully dyeable, which is excellent news. Your first is the fluff on the gloves, your second is the little face pieces and the ears, and your third is the eyes. So these are super cute. And here's our black card banquet bag. It is awfully small and it does have 3 dye slots, the bag and the rope, the metalwork, and the little pearls right there. Next up is the glaze of prosperous necklace. It is a simple choker. The first dye slot is the band and the crystal in the center. The second is the crystals that go around. The third is the other crystals. So here they are together. They need to give us more chokers in the game. And here is our handheld auspicious year. It is not fully dyeable. The 2 gold beads do not dye, and the bead in between those two kind of has like a perpetual green tint to it. But the first dye slot is the ropes and all the other good stuff. The second dye slot is the tint on that center bead, and the third dye slot is the metalwork between the knots. And here are the shoes, Borderland City. They are, like I said, sheer tennis shoes, and they are not fully dyeable. Your first slot is this, the toe and the part that comes up around the laces. The second is the sheer tint, and the third is the laces in the bottom of the shoe. And for our decom, we have the Grand City Clouds dress. Unfortunately, it is not fully dyeable. It's covered in little pearls and crystals and things that you cannot dye. However, my favorite part about this dress is the like back tattoo that comes up. I think that is just so gorgeous, and that's why I wanted this one so bad. But for our first dye slot, you get the overlay of leather right here. For the second, you get the poofy little part of the sleeves, something I'm not a big fan of, part of the flowers, and the sheerness down here on the bottom. For the third slot, you get the other half of the dress. For the fourth slot, you get the other part of the flowers, along with the back tattoo, so you can actually dye that separately. And here's the 2 colors with the flowers together. And our 5th dye slot is the metalwork on the side of your waist right there. But what I do extra like about this dress is that all of the like sleeve options work with it. So you can actually get rid of that odd poofy part just by plopping a coat on if you've got any of those. I think you can definitely elevate this dress's look that way. So if you're scared of it because of that one weird sleeve, please don't. This dress has so much potential. All right, and here's our handheld piece, the Song of xizhou. I don't know, I don't want to butcher it. Okay, so anyway, you do get 5 dye slots. I have mine dyed a funky color right now. 1 second. Okay, and it's all black now. So it is in no sense of the term fully dyeable. You have tons of stuff all over it that you cannot dye, which is really unfortunate because I think this thing is so pretty. For our first dye slot, you get the base right there. For the second, you get the top half. For the third, you get the tip up there, and then the bottom half where the strings are right there. Sorry, I don't speak instruments, so I don't know what the pieces of this instrument are called. On slot 4 you get the back side, and on slot 5 you get the rim. So like I said, I do really like this piece, and I even have a pose specifically for this piece, but its dyeability. And speaking of more disappointments, the back piece, the Dream Rabbit Guardian back piece, I was so excited for this. Look how adorable this thing is. Oh my goodness. And look at those dye slots, only 2. You can dye the rabbit, and you can dye the ribbon that goes around its neck and the base of the hat. All of this other stuff is undyeable. It wouldn't be so bad if it was all just like pure white, but it's like white and gold and tan, and the face is like galaxy colored, and there's pink tones in there, and it's hard to work with like this. I don't know why they couldn't have just added a few more dye slots to this thing. And like, you can't even dye the backpack straps. It's ridiculous. Alright, and here's the Contacts Blooming Illusion. They're super cute, super fun. They've got little bears and little confetti pieces all in the iris. These are adorable. They are a touch hard to work with because of the color combinations that they have, but I do really like them. They're super cute. And here's the Contacts Far Dates. Also super pretty. They look like crystals up close, and there's no weird fade on the dark sclera, which is nice. I was kind of worried about that whenever I first got them. So these are also super useful, and like if you wanted to make like a crystalline look, because you know we've been getting a lot of outfits that have crystal chunks in them, so these are a good pair for those. And here we have the Contacts Star Pupil. These are very sea themed. The pupil has a starfish in it. There's starfish and seashells littered all around the iris, and it does look like a very oceany blue with a white foam in the center and a sea green in the around the very center of the iris. They're super cute. They're not what I expected to come with this banner, but then again they also tend to pair different makeups inside the banner, so I mean, I'm still happy with them. Just something I wasn't expecting. And here's the facial paint, that scale. It is just a few little mermaid scales over here on the right side of the face, along with some water beads, maybe I think they're supposed to be, or pearls. I'm honestly not too sure. They're little white specks. They're not defined enough for me to think they are pearls, but it is one of the few facial paints that works well on both of the dark and light skin tones. And here's the lipstick, the Sea of No Return. It is super glossy, super luscious looking, and you get 3 colors with it: Palace Courtyard, Cooked Oolong, and Warming Hibiscus. And of course those come as overlays, and you do have the option to have no overlay. So here's the first color turned all the way up and all the way down. Second color down and all the way up. Third color up and all the way down. And here's the second lipstick, Shining Dew. This is not one of my favorites for my doll personally. I believe the lines are a bit too harsh, and this is definitely more suited for a paler doll, but you do get 3 shades: Fairy Raspberry, Ruby Red, and Mist Lotus, and of course those can be overlaid. So here's our first dye slot all the way up and all the way down. Second dye slot down and all the way up. And our third slot up and all the way down. Alright, and here is the Decom Scene Colorful Century. It is super blank. There is almost nothing beyond this right here. Your walls extend and your floors extend, but this is literally it. And your lighting does cut out right about here. And ignore my poor girl's makeup. This outfit is clearly suited for my other doll, but the lighting on her is perfectly fine. It looks great. And it is the same for the pale doll, though it does give a little bit of a halo, so it does wash her out just a touch in my opinion. But I think a filter could fix that, probably White Tower. White tower does add a bit of definition, but it does desaturate the picture a bit. And here's your entire posable area. It is super small. Like I said, this scene is terribly, terribly small. I mean, from here you can go up and above to the blackness up there, but there's plenty of scenes that you can also do that with. So unless you are just super stoked about this yellow couch, I might stay away from this one. Like, even the lighting on the doll gets weird if you push her back. Right there, it's a little awkward, and she can't even go back onto the couch. Like, she can't clip through it. If I had known this before I got it, I would not have gotten this scene. I'm so displeased with this scene. It was such a disappointment whenever I got it. But that is everything for the Snow Date Light Chase. I hope you found this helpful and useful in deciding on whether or not you want to be pulling on this banner or you want to save your coins for the next one that's coming out. I don't know if any of you saw the spoilers, but I am super, super excited for it. Anywho, I will talk to you later. Bye bye.